Regular contributor on this show, DeSean Jackson, is receiving a lot of criticism after he defended DeSean Jackson for retweeting an anti-Semitic quote that was attributed to Adolf Hitler. Jackson said that DeSean was speaking the truth. Jackson then doubled down, saying, quote, "The point is, you did not say to me that Jews are not trying to divide the black community." He finished it up by saying he had not said one untrue thing yet. Last night, in an interview with CNN, Jackson said he could have been more clear about what he was defending DeSean about. So, Shannon, what is your take on Stephen defending DeSean?
I spoke to Stacks yesterday, Skip, and I called him. And I'm like, bro, what are you doing?
So you're 2 for 2.
Yeah,
2 days in a row. You talked to DeSean, now you talked to Steve.
Sometimes I feel like Dr. Phil without the pay.
I got it.
Skip, I was like, Stacks, what are you doing?
Yep.
He's like, man, I said, you doubling down? I was like, what are you doubling down on? Man, at first he said, I was upset because the Eagles released a statement as strong as they did for DeSean, but they didn't release a statement very similar to when Riley Cooper uttered what he said.
That is true.
And I said, when I spoke to you before you went out to see go to Minnesota and deal with the George Floyd situation, I said, what did I tell you? I said, emotion. I say some emotion is good, but only if it's controlled emotion. I say, Stack, you can double down on fact, and as long as you repeat facts, you'll be right. If you double down on emotion, you'll be wrong every time you double down on it. I say, Stacks, you're wrong. I say, you're doubling down on everything that DeSean Jackson said. Instead of, he's like, well, you know what? And as he said in CNN, he could have been more clear. I said, you and DeSean Jackson could have spoke about black empowerment without ever mentioning Hitler. First of all, he didn't even say that.
No, he didn't say that. It has been attributed to him.
Yes. I say, Stacks, in a situation like this, I say, you're a voice, you're a powerful voice now, and people are looking to take pot shots and pick you off. Don't sabotage what you built. There's going to be enough people out there trying to sabotage you. I say, Stack, you're wrong. D-Jack was wrong. You repeated something. I said, think about it, Stack. You repeated a 50-page paragraph, and then the last paragraph, you like, well, that's the point. No! No, I say, Stacks, I'll give you an example. I say, you know how we feel about the Confederacy? When people mention Robert E. Lee, they mention Stonewall Jackson. They say some of the Lee tactics are still used today for today's military. I don't give a damn about that. He owned slaves. He tried to keep my ancestors oppressed. Why do I care about what his military tactics are being used today? That's how the Jewish community feels about Adolf Hitler. I say, Stacks, what we're trying to build is allies. We don't need adversaries. Skip, this is what I did. I said, Stack, let me ask you a question. I said, did you drive to the game when you played in the NBA? He's like, yeah, I said, how many times did you stop off at the park and play somebody one-on-one? He's like, no, I wouldn't do that. I said, we go into the bigger fight, and you picking fights along the way. For what? It makes no sense. I said, they can be our biggest allies. Why are we trying to make them an adversary? Why are we trying to start a fire that there is no fire there? I say what this movement is about we're trying to gain equality for everybody. So if whites want to come along, that feel that their voices not being heard, join on. Asians, the LGBT community, trans, I don't care, Skip, I don't care. In any movement that excludes anyone, I'm out. I don't care what it is. It can be BLM, it can be HLM, it can be H&M. I don't care. Because I'm trying to gain what's right for everybody that feels that they're in the minority and their voices don't get heard and their faces don't get seen. That's what I'm about. I say, Stack, don't sabotage this. I say, bro, you're a powerful voice. You don't realize how powerful your voice is. I said, but don't undermine your own cause. I said, you and D-Jack were wrong. And you made a point when you didn't have to attribute it to him. Make the point. Talk about black empowerment. Yes, we need to spend more in the black community. Yes, we need to be more united. Absolutely, 1,000% Stacks. But you could have said that. D-Jack could have said that without ever mentioning that Jack tail name. Period. So you're wrong. Don't repeat, oh, I'm doubling down on everything D-Jack said, because everything D-Jack said was not right. One little snippet was right. Miss me with everything else.
I greatly appreciate everything you just said about a man we both know because we've had him on the show many times.
Absolutely.
I have gotten to know Stephen Jackson, and I would like to try to put him in some perspective, if I might. Maybe simplistically, I divide this world into two categories. You either have a good heart or you have a bad heart.
Correct.
There are some good people and there's some just no good, bad people. Stephen Jackson has a good heart.
He has a great heart.
I am here to vouch for it, to endorse it, to back it.
Yes.
He does have a great heart. And until Memorial Day, he was trying to make his way as an NBA analyst on this show, some on ESPN. He's got his podcast called All the Smoke with our man Matt Barnes, also that we have on the show occasionally. And he was making his way into a new career. And he was also continuing his playing career because he was playing in the Big Three at a very high level.
Yes.
So that was his life. And all of a sudden, on Memorial Day, something happened that changed the world.
Right.
And it certainly changed Stephen Jackson's life.
Correct.
George Floyd got murdered on a video that we all saw again and again and again and again and again by a white cop in Minneapolis. Knee on neck. What was it? 4 minutes and 46 seconds?
8 minutes.
I'm sorry, 8 minutes and 46 seconds. It's the most excruciating piece of video I've ever been subjected to watching.
Right.
And it changed, I think, all of our points of view. It opened a lot of white minds and hearts to your plight and your cause, and to Black lives must matter. I'm going to put an M in before the matter. Must matter. And fate tapped Stephen Jackson on the shoulder. Stephen Jackson had known George Floyd because he's from Port Arthur, spent time in Houston. George Floyd was from Houston, and they found that they looked so much alike, they looked like twins. They kidded each other, we must have had the same daddy. And they started calling each other twin.
Correct.
And all of a sudden, George gets murdered on Memorial Day, and Stephen finds himself in the national spotlight as, wait a second, I feel like I've been chosen.
Right.
I'm going to have to go to Minneapolis, which he did. He stayed in Minneapolis for, I believe, about a month. We had him on the show a couple times from there. And he began to actually be George Floyd. He was actually standing in for George Floyd. He began to do interviews countrywide. I saw him on Good Morning America, Today Show, all over CNN. He became a national voice, speaking literally for his quote-unquote twin. And now I want to put his life in perspective. Remember, something that happened to our man Stephen Jackson when he was 16 in Port Arthur, Texas. His 23-year-old half-brother got jumped and beaten to death, and Stephen was not there for him. And he'll tell you to this day, that's his biggest regret in life. I wasn't there to fight for him and defend him.
Right.
So at heart, he is a defender by nature.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yep.
If you're his guy, he's going to fight for you. He'll be there.
Right.
He will be there. And he will fight to the death for you.
Yep.
So what happened that night, what became known as the Malice in the Palace.
Right.
Indiana at Detroit. Ron Artest goes up in the stands to get even with the guy who threw a cup of Coke on him or whatever it was. And who's first to his side?
Right.
Who flew into the picture? Stephen Jackson.
That's not even his fight.
Woo.
But he ran there. Oh.
He flew into the picture up in the stands and with fists flying.
Yes.
He is going to be there for his man, Ron Artest.
Yep.
And it cost Stephen 30 games. But he didn't regret one game that he missed because he was doing the right thing for his teammate who was doing the wrong thing.
Correct.
So here this is sort of a similar situation.
Correct.
But he was with the Spurs, my Spurs twice, and Tim Duncan called him the ultimate teammate.
Right.
That's Tim Duncan, one of the greatest players ever, one of the great leaders, quiet leaders in the history of the sport, saying that man is the ultimate teammate because he would have your back.
Yes.
On, off the court. If somebody messed with Tim Duncan, they were going to have to explain it and deal with our man DeSean Jackson.
Correct.
Right?
Yes.
And he became a leader of the Spurs, even though he was seen as a little bit against the grain. But he was always going the right direction against the grain.
Right.
So here we have him thrust into the national spotlight, and he began to take his new calling very seriously. He became a zealot for Black Lives Matter in the greatest way possible. He is a powerful speaker. When I saw him at that rally in Minnesota speak off the top of his head, I said, that he's got a gift.
Correct.
Shannon Sharpe has a gift. So you're linked in that way, in that both of you have become very powerful voices, you with a bigger stage at this moment, but Stephen acquiring a big stage.
Correct.
This is all new to him, man. It's not new to Shannon Sharpe. You've been on TV for a long time.
I have.
You understand that you are walking through something of a minefield here, and you have to know, I can walk strong here, but if I step over there, I'm going to step on a landmine.
And many of them looking for you to slip up.
They are.
Looking for that one thing, Skip, and that's what I told him. I said, Stacks, you have to understand, there are many are called, but few are chosen. George, I mean, there was 30, I mean, since then, there probably been 30, 40 black men that's been killed at the hands of police. But none of them had the impact like George. No. So that means you were chosen for this.
Yeah.
I say, Stacks, when people look at you, there are a lot of people that's on the other side. They look at you and look at your background. You see, that was a lot of people tried to discredit Malcolm X because his background wasn't like Dr. King's. Dr. King came up in the church. He was a pastor at a very young age. He was very well versed. And they look at Malcolm X. Oh, you were a pimp. You were a hustler. You went to prison. Why am I going to listen to you? The same thing, Stack. They look at your background. They look at what you did in the Malice of the Palace, and they look at your situation. They're like, huh? No. It took all that to formulate DeSean Jackson. Now, Stacks, let me tell you. Now, doubling down on this, you're wrong twice. You could have easily made this point, not mention, say, look, because you have to understand now, freedom of speech doesn't mean freedom of consequences. You're going to be held accountable for your words.
Right. And remember, to your point, as you well know, the stronger you speak out, the stronger they will come at you.
Exactly. So I said, all you had to do is say what DeSean was trying to say is that the blacks, the black empowerment movement is real. If we were to just invest and put that time in our community, our voices would be amplified. When you double down on everything D-Jack said, that wasn't the only thing D-Jack said, which was the point you were trying to make. He said other things. So when you say everything he said was right, the truth, everybody assumed everything that he said, even though it wasn't. Oh, he backing that up? No. Clarity. Context, explain what you're trying to say, not just say everything. Skip, okay, I like chicken.
Okay.
But I like certain parts of the chicken. I like all chicken. No, it's certain parts. I like the breasts, I like the short thigh drumsticks. That's what I'm saying, Skip. I don't like the necks. I don't like the feet. I don't like the beak. Okay?
Yep.
So he basically said, I like all this, everything he said.
Everything he said is the truth.
Yes.
Remember, this is all new to him. He doesn't know the guidelines, the rules, the out of bounds. You can go so strong over here.
Right.
You have to stay focused on your goal. What is the prize out there?
Right.
It's Black lives do matter. They must matter right now. Stay there.
Right.
Because you aren't doing good things. You're doing great things.
Correct.
And all of a sudden, he rushed to the defense of a fellow black man who is a friend of his, and they did speak on the phone. And I get the Riley Cooper because I was the first to stand up the next day and say, that's wrong, he must be cut.
Right.
It gives me chills to think about how they mishandled that situation under the old Chip Kelly regime.
Right.
They swung and missed. Michael Vick takes some of the responsibility. He was the leader of that team, and he stood up for Riley Cooper and said basically, you know, he's always been a good dude to me, and I got his back on this one because Michael was getting a second chance, and I think he thought Riley deserved a second. He did not deserve a second chance.
Correct.
And not only did he get a second chance, he got an extension a few months later.
Right.
So we get that.
Right.
But the point that we spoke about yesterday, then two wrongs don't make a new right.
Right.
But you're right about that. That you want to talk about double standards. That's like a quadruple standard.
Right.
But all of a sudden, Stephen plunged down that road of he spoke the truth. And now I'm going to just read it one more time because we have to just put Stephen in perspective. Right. The quote attributed to Hitler that wasn't even spoken by Hitler. I don't know, but again,
how did it get attached to him? It's unbeknownst to a lot of people.
Okay, so the quote was that that DeSean Jackson retweeted was that white Jews will blackmail America, they will extort America, their plan for world domination won't work if I'll just say black people know who they were.
Right.
Okay, this is back in those days.
Right.
Okay. It comes across as an extremely anti-Semitic quote, starting with that name that you know and I know. It just disqualifies everything thereafter.
Everything.
So Stephen began to interact yesterday with people on Twitter, which is not a good idea right now because you're not yet qualified. You haven't thought it all through.
Correct.
This is all too new to you. You're not a veteran at this just yet. So if you then try to defend yourself on Twitter live, basically, just in a give and take with your followers, you're going to be prone to blurting out things you're going to regret.
Correct.
So he said at one point, I don't give an F about Hitler. I know he was cruel, and I don't support that. Well, trust me, to Jewish people saying Hitler was cruel, that's like saying hell is kind of warm, right?
Exactly.
Hitler was a monster.
Right.
He wanted to eradicate the Jews from the face of the earth.
Correct.
Genocide.
Correct.
By any means possible. Gas chambers, ovens, suicide firing squads. Yes, whatever, by any means possible. It's just flat out cold-blooded eradication.
Right.
Okay, so to say cruel, that's going to offend Jewish, so then I got to make this point because we can't go down this path. We'll all lose if we go down this path. So then Stephen posts a message in written form saying, your race's pain doesn't hurt more than the next race's pain. We can't rank the suffering of a race or a culture or a religion. You can't do it because they're all tragedies, that they're all travesties of the worst order of man's inhumanity to man. That's what it is. That's what it boils down to. So, listen, I ache when we talk about slavery and the aftermath of slavery. And yet I ache when I think about what happened to the Native Americans here. And I ache when I think about what happened to the Jews in Germany from about 1939 to 1945. Right. The Holocaust. But we can't rank, you can't say, oh, we've suffered more than you have. Right. You'll lose that because you all suffered. Right. And you can't rush to the defense of a black man at the expense of another group. Correct. And so here comes Stephen, and you're trying to defend a black man while continuing to offend another group of people. A possible ally. Right? A possible ally. A group that I believe you can make a case has been your ally for many years. Yeah. We can argue, we can go back and forth about that. But remember, you're telling the world that DeSean doesn't need to apologize while he is profusely apologizing at that same moment. Yeah. And you're telling the world, as Stephen did yesterday, that DeSean didn't mean his apology because he felt forced to because he was going to get fired. That's what Stephen said yesterday. He was only apologizing because he was forced to. Well, now you're telling me it's not a genuine apology. Well, you're putting DeSean in an even worse position. Right.
Now, I didn't get that. And he told me the point he was trying to make was about black empowerment. And my only thing, and I told him, D-Jack, and I told Stephen Jackson, the exact same thing. Both of you guys could have made your compelling point without mentioning Hitler. Why does Hitler have to be brought up into this? He's not Voltaire. He's not Dr. King. He's not Malcolm X. He's not no great philosopher. Why the hell would you want to repeat anything he ever said?
I try to understand where DeSean was going because he said, I'm trying to uplift the black community because the sort of the thrust of that quote is the black people will save us, right? That's the point. Like,
no, but Skip, you don't stand tall by standing on someone else.
That's what.
Okay, you want to uplift blacks, so what you want to do it at climbing on top of Jewish people?
No.
We need allies, not adversaries. And I say, Stack, let me ask you a question. Today, what is everybody talking about? They're talking about what DeSean said. They're talking about what you said. Ain't nobody mentioned Black Lives Movement. You see how they done got us distracted? You see how they did it just that quick? We did it to ourselves.
Well, you did.
We did it to ourselves. We stepped in it. Nobody even put poop there. We went looking for it. Come on, bro.
Come on, bro.
And that's what I told him. I said, Stacks, bro, you know I'm going to shoot you straight. He said, I know, Unc. I know that's why, hey. I said, come on. This is not a fight. We don't need this fight. We need as many soldiers for good and for change as we possibly can gather. Don't have people jumping off because, I can't be a part of that. Because they already believe that this movement somehow is anti-Jewish. So, come on.
Then allow me to make a point about a pet peeve of yours. How much do you despise it when you hear a white person say, I have black friends, right? Okay. Stephen went there yesterday. He said, I have Jewish friends. And I got love for Jews because they love me. My Jewish friends love me.
Right.
Guess what? Ultimate irony. That's what you don't want to hear from us. Right.
You're exactly right, Skip. And growing up, I didn't know a whole lot. I mean, that's not something that was. I'm in rural South Georgia, Skip. So that wasn't taught a whole lot. So I didn't know a whole lot. Didn't really get abreast on that until I got to college and then got on my own and started hearing people talk about it. But I'm like, my friends are my friends. Skip, I don't ask them, man, what are you? Are you Asian? Are you Native American? Skip, I don't ask that. You cool, we friends, we get along, okay, fine. That ain't got nothing to do with it. So for me, like I told Stacks, I said, Stack, let's not start a fire when we don't have to. Let's try to bring this thing together. I say, we've spoken enough. I mean, we don't have a fight with the Jewish community. They don't have a fight with us. We got a fight with the system that's been entrenched, that's been in place, that's keep us, our economics down, keep us, the systemic and the institutional racism that keep us bound. Let's deal with that. We ain't got no fight with these people out here. We're going to war. So because we're trying to end this war on racism. Skip, if you remember, when Ronald Reagan declared a war on drugs, it wasn't just the local police that he called to do it. He wanted all military, he wanted all hands on deck.
Yep.
So we want all hands on deck because we're going to war against racism.
The one thing Stephen said yesterday that I completely wholeheartedly endorse is he wrote, it's a new day, bruh. Well, it is.
Yes.
Black lives must matter right now.
Right.
It's that time, but it has nothing to do with Hitler and the Jewish people.
We're not. That's not our fight. We're not trying to fight that.
Thank you for watching. You can subscribe here to get the latest from the show, and be sure to check out more of the best clips from Undisputed, or go watch a few other segments from our other shows on FS1.